Thank you. Good evening, everyone, and I hope you're all doing well. My name is Kiera Fernandes, and today we will be discussing the constants of an ever-evolving society. As we're plunged into this way of life completely unlike anything we have ever experienced before, this thought may have crossed your mind. What can we be sure of in a world like this? Or rather, what are the constants of an ever-evolving society? It's a heavy question, weighted by years of reconstructions of social norms, values, and beliefs. The values held by our society in the 1800s have drastically shifted to become what they are today. For that matter, even the values held by our society in the 1990s have undergone dramatic transformations to have become the standard set before us at present. And even though it may seem like bell-bottoms are making a comeback, the values held by our society in the 70s don't seem to be tagging along. So this essentially tells us that depending on the era in which we exist, we are presented with a different set of norms, values, and beliefs from those that came before us. And since these components form the very fabric of our civilization, their evolution results in an equally evolving society. As a sociology student, I learn about this reshaping. I learn that some of the things we believe are such rudimentary and foundational parts of our lives are simply notions that we have constructed for ourselves by ourselves. And as our view of the world shifts, these notions do too. As an example, let me reintroduce you to the familiar concept of childhood, a period of time that forms the foundation of who we are as people today and who we will become. A period of time where we are sheltered from the viciousness of the outside world. A period of time characterized by innocence, vulnerability, inexperience, and in my case, so much fast food. But also a period of time deemed completely unnatural and a recent invention by French historian Philippe Aries. Aries believed that childhood didn't exist before the Middle Ages. Of course, children still existed, but the things that made them children, the things that distinguished them from adults, that did not. Children were virtually the same as adults. They harbored the same priorities, to earn a wage and feed their families. Children worked as chimney sweeps or in sweatshops as soon as they were able to, and weren't sheltered from some of the more demerit aspects of society, such as crime and deviance, but in contrast, they took part in these activities as well. And just like adults, children faced the same repercussions for their actions. Even though children of the upper class did have the luxury of indulging in their whims every now and then, they were still expected to get married at ages as young as 14 years old and drafted as soldiers during war times. But after the 13th century, these ideals shifted dramatically to morph into childhood as we see it in the modern day. Today, we view childhood as a time to instead socialize and educate our young members of society in preparation for their eventual debut into the real world. And this transformation is but one example amongst a myriad of other ideologies that have mutated into completely different beliefs suited for modern society and the people living in it. And these transformations as a whole reveal to us our very first constant: change. Change is a permanent factor in our lives. It is everywhere between space and time. It starts from the very minute you are born and then follows you throughout the rest of your life. You are constantly growing. You are constantly evolving. You are constantly changing. Change is always happening, but the way in which it happens, that is up to us. And in our society, we observe a pattern of these changes moving towards the better. Over the last millennium, human beings have ushered in the age of the internet and technology, diversity in methods of communication, and more advanced healthcare and educational institutions, amongst a plethora of other developments. These are the ways in which our society has changed, or rather, the ways in which our society has improved. And this introduces a new question. What motivates human beings so deeply to improve their societies? Well, After peeling back the layers of surface rationales like money, patriotism, or public recognition, we are left with a deep-rooted instinct, and our second constant, survival. Just like any other animals, humans too, we strive to survive. But the way in which we do this is what distinguishes us from other animals. Instead of learning to camouflage and sharpening our claws, we opted for a different approach, to construct communities within the wild, completely safe from predators. And over the years, these communities have continuously progressed through accumulating more sophisticated technology and increasingly efficient methods of satisfying people's material needs and wants. Nevertheless, humans have also recognized that this sort of development alone isn't all we need to survive. We also need each other. According to the functionalist sociological perspective, which is one of the three perspectives of observing society, it states that a society functions in a very similar way to that of a machine. Just as a machine has cogs and wheels that must work cohesively in order for the machine to function, society, we have human beings that need to work cohesively in order for the society to survive. We need to establish harmony in order for our society to survive. Therefore, disorder isn't an option. We require what is called a value consensus. Simply put, a value consensus is a general agreement across a society on a set of values or morals or ethics to live by. It essentially dictates whether an action carried out by an individual is morally good or bad, and whether it should be punished or not. And this brings up another question, a deeper question. What does it mean to be good? While I'm sure Aristotle would be very interested in having his life's work outshined by an 11th grader, unfortunately, unlike gravity and the conservation of mass, there are certain phenomena that exist in our society that simply don't have definitive rules, like what it means to be good. However, over the years, different people have developed different moral philosophies attempting to explain exactly what this means. These include the theory of moral subjectivism, which states that the morality of an action, or whether it is good or bad, is decided by the individual who carries it out. Or the theory of cultural relativism, which states that the morality of an action is decided based on the relevant culture of the society in question. Or the theory of utilitarianism, big word, I know, but it simply means that the morality of an action is decided based upon how much happiness it invokes from others. And these theories simply form a handful of the multitude that exist. But it is also through this persistence over generations to uncover one of society's greatest enigmas that we truly see the human instinct to survive. So our constants amidst an ever-evolving society remain change and the determination to survive. But why should this matter to us? What is our role in all of this? Well, we need to remind ourselves of these constants and use them together. Change alongside our want to establish harmony to survive. Earlier, I spoke to you about childhood. I told you of its inexistence merely a millennium ago. And although it is more accessible today in certain parts of the world and less developed parts of the world, it remains a luxury some are still unable to afford. And this is but one aspect of our society that still requires reshaping and that still requires change. However, today in this conference is everything we need to invoke this change, which is you. Because just as I said earlier, change is uncontrollable. It is always happening, but the way in which it happens, that is up to us. Which leads me to our final constant. People. You and me, we make up our society. Without us, society wouldn't exist. We are the very building blocks of our global community, all 7.8 billion of us. And that, ladies and gentlemen, are the constants of an ever-evolving society. Thank you.